Hey, FlimsyLunchTray here, and welcome to my first ever life update here on the channel. We've had discussion times, we've had channel updates, but this one's going to be a life update. You've probably noticed that there has been some shortage of content as of late, not too severely, or just videos going up more delayed than normal. But yes, and that is just basically I've just been really busy, and I'm so appreciative of all of you in the community, and that we recently passed 1,500 subscribers. And so, you know, for me as content creator, but also one who enjoys engaging with you, my community, it's probably best just give you a life update. So that's the purposes of this video today, so hopefully it won't go so long, and then we'll just have some battle footage playing in the background. Okay, so first, and just starting off, is basically just acknowledging that the Norwegian summertime vacation is over. So basically my vacation time ran till through the whole first week of August, and then it was a gentle transition back into the office, back into doing work, and then the third and this fourth week were just full. What was there 5 weeks in August? I gotta even look at my calendar. Sort of. So last 3 weeks have just been crazy busy for me, for several reasons, which I'm getting into, and it's much more than just the work. But it's nice, of course, when I have that time of vacation, I can really spend that quality time, and maybe I'm trying to get that certain battle and featuring a ship for you, or having time to try to go over something more in-depth detail so I understand it well, then, you know, like whether it be the Azure Lane or Army Trade-In, whatever. And then present the content to all of you. But it's kind of been interesting because so Mrs. Flimsy and we came to Norway in January of 2020, and then 2 months after that it was COVID, and then basically COVID did end here in Norway. Well, I mean, not completely ended, but life went back more so to normal about end of March 2022, April. And so with that, we've now just lived like, what, 14, 15 months in Norway of it being quote-unquote normal. So then the work life here, at least in the field I'm in, really swings between August or mid-August till beginning of June. So I finally experienced like my first normal work year. So and now with my work, as I am understanding it more, is kind of more of these changes and learning the ropes of things more. So that's been great. Work is fantastic. Loving it. So that's not, I mean, that has been busy just because August and April tend to be my most busiest times. But things are beginning to settle back down a little bit more. But what is particularly contributing to myself not really having as much time as I previously have had is two things. One of which is that Mrs. Flimsy and I are now doing a Norwegian social studies course. So a Norwegian social studies course, it teaches you a lot of things, and I'll just pull it up. So you're learning about education, competency, work life, health, family and everyday life, the history of Norway, the then and now, politics, environment, all these things. And thankfully we can take this course in English. In Norwegian, this course is called, if hopefully I say this correctly, the Samfunnskunnskap course. So this Norwegian social studies course is, we lucked out where we only had to do the 50-hour version of it. There's a 75-hour version too, but we only have to do the 50-hour because of our timing and when we arrived here to Norway. So that's good. That helps us out a lot. So it basically means I'm back to doing homework. Gosh, I am so tired of having to keep coming back to homework all the time. So it was, you know, graduated college, and I did some a little bit of post-grad stuff, and then came to Norway, and then I had language studies, A1, A2, B1, in learning it in the A1, A2, B1. If you're not so familiar with that, it tends to be the hierarchy of when you're going up and learning languages. I think they have they even have a C1, and then I don't know if there's a C2 or not, but I know there's a C1. A1, A2 is kind of the A1 is really basics. A2 is kind of re-solidifying those basics, and then B1 becomes much harder, and you're engaging much more in Norwegian and speaking with the class and that. And then B2 is like very much higher level, and then C1 is like expertly high level. So I've done the A1, I've done the A2, I've done the B1. And so with this Norwegian Social Studies course, we need this to apply for permanent residency, which technically we can do now. But I also have to do a language test for that visa. And so hopefully that will happen the end of this year, before the end of this year. And it's only an A2 test for permanent residency, where dual citizenship, it's B1 level, and I think that's fine. So my Norwegian is, of course, a lot better than what it was even just several months ago, because I have a Norwegian employer. So it's important that I speak Norwegian, but my coworkers are very kind in meeting me when I'm not so sure what the Norwegian word is, and so I say in English and then ask what it is in Norwegian, then or English, and then switch back into Norwegian. So this this Norwegian Social Studies course, it's online. So Mrs. Flimsy and I are just basically doing these modules when we have the time. And that's something we've had to refigure out, because now that we're both back to working from the summer vacation and things have been busy, it's trying to find, okay, just trying to do what we think a module Monday through Friday doesn't really work. And so we have to reshuffle that and our approach of that. But basically this course in total goes for 90 days, but our goal is to probably try to do in about 70. So by the end of October, maybe slightly before we're done, then you have to do a test based off of each of the 3 modules, and then I think there's assignments too you have to do with it. So we're learning, we're figuring all that out. We've only been in this social studies course, I think, 2 weeks now. So normally that time that I would have, let's say if I didn't, because my Fridays have been a bit messed up lately. Normally I try to produce 3 videos on Friday, then maybe I do a fourth on Saturday or Sunday, and then also trying to leave some lenience, openness. If Wargaming does some big news article update, I can cover it during the week for World of Warships at least. So that's been not so easy lately because of the time having to devote to the social studies course. The other thing is that I can't give too much detail, but Mrs. Flimsy is starting a business. She's been doing something as a hobby for, I guess since last 8-9 months, since December of last year. And so now we've kind of come to a point where with her family visa, she can apply for it to become a business. And so she did, and she has been officially recognized by Norway in starting her business, which is fantastic, but it's such a learning curve. My family, I'm used to kind of business talk. I considered minoring in business in college, and I took some business classes. And so for myself, kind of helping Mrs. Flimsy more with that business language. She's much more creative, so her career, what she's doing, her business, it's a creative business. But I'm not going to say anything beyond that. You'll know eventually once they have the face reveal with Mrs. Flimsy, and you kind of get to know us more, I guess, once that happens, which that doesn't happen until 5,000 subscribers. I tried to talk her down to 2,500 subscribers, but she says 5,000 subscribers, so we'll see when that happens and takes place. And then we'll have this big stream, and she'll be playing World of Warships for the first time, all that stuff. So it'll be a big celebration, and we'll do much more just beyond that. But that's one of the big things, right? So when I post pictures of on vacation and stuff on Discord or YouTube community channel, it's just me. You don't see her because it's not going to happen until we hit 5,000 subscribers here on the YouTube channel. So yeah, she started a business and doing this. I mean, of course, there's laws and regulations that are different here in Norway than in the US. But it's trying to help process that. So here in Norway, like when you become a business, you get approved, you get this organization number, and then that's basically the key to get a business bank account and getting other things that are required for a business here in Norway, and then having to handle the MVA tax, or like mum's tax. you know, if she's selling things, then it's like 25% of this tax, and that gets quote unquote added on, and that goes to the government. And then, so it's important that you don't include that in your profit, and it's like a dip. Even if you have a different bank account, you just put all that in. And then, you know, if she's doing more educational oriented things, then that doesn't get that tax. So there's just a lot of different things with that. So we're really in the beginning process of all that, but we've taken a lot of time to try to learn and understand all this and what organizations, business, government entities that you jump through all these hoops with. So that's been the other thing that's been taking up a lot of time. So yeah, we really waited till the start of, once vacation was over, back to work life, to just hop in and jump in on all this stuff. So yeah, I think the business side of processing things will probably take a few more weeks for that to settle down, where we begin to get in a rhythm and the accounting and all that jazz. So we're really just trying to find rhythms, because some of the, you know, that is new to us, as well as doing a social studies course and balancing that. That's a newer thing to us. You know, when we were doing the language classes, that was much easier because it was COVID time when we were doing that. So there was a lot of home office, and for myself, and a lot of what I do also relates to being like being able to be in person and stuff. And so just not being able to do that meant that I had more time, but that gives us a lot more time to learn more about Norway, and spend a lot of time investing on learning the language. So yeah, so I've just been really busy with that. And the other thing that's fun to add on, I think I've talked about this in the past, is also we're in the midst of learning the process of buying a home in Norway. So we're saving money to buy a house. And I know I have a small Norwegian audience, and I mean, maybe this even translates with the other. I mean, this honestly goes for any country, most likely, of course, but I feel like Norway is just such an exception. Maybe because there's only 5.4 million people here in the country. But so we live in one of the larger cities in Norway, so or I guess at least close to it, being Stavanger, Norway. And so house prices are just much more expensive around the larger cities in Norway, so like Oslo, Bergen, Stavanger, Tromsø, Trondheim. So I mean, you can be paying 50%, or not 50%. You can be paying like 100% more, 100% or more for a house that would cost much less in the countryside or really far away from a main city hub. So the housing market in Norway can be very competitive at times. Like, prices have dropped, but interest rates are pretty high right now. And so it's trying to figure out, okay, what areas are we looking at? And we figured out the areas that we would like to own a home in. But then the closer you are to these larger towns, I mean, like in our region, in the county of Rogan, and for my North American audience, counties are much larger here than they are like in Indiana, at least as an example. But you have the two largest cities here, which are Stavanger and Sandnes. And the closer you get to those two city centers, the more expensive those house prices become, which, I mean, honestly, you know, you could say that's similar to, which is what the caveat I caught on earlier, but similar to, you know, living in other, if I was living in Indiana, you know, closer I go to downtown Indy, right, could be more expensive, but that's kind of changing because you have more of these communities like Carmel, Noblesville, Greenwood, where house prices are becoming much more expensive because it's kind of that hollowing out of the city centers and centers. Yeah, so I mean, those areas become much more expensive than they used to. You know, I mean, like in Indianapolis, like that area of like Carmel and Noblesville is exceptionally really expensive in buying homes, and so then you're looking at probably farther away from those two city centers to buy a home if you're looking to buy a home. So like I had some friends for an English or US dollar currency comparison, like for here, if you wanted to buy a one-bedroom apartment, it wasn't large, and you're just looking to buy a one-bedroom apartment. I mean, it depends on your setting here in the Stavanger area, but I mean, I mean, because I say it varies. Like, if you're buying something in a tower, 2021 new high-rise tower, and you're looking to spend 250,000 US dollars or a little under, or you could buy a one-bedroom apartment that's in the bottom of a house for $175,000. Yeah, so roughly 1.7, 1.8, 1.9 million Norwegian kroner. Because the currency exchange rate, it's close to 10, like 1 US dollar, 10 Norwegian kroner, but it's more 1 US dollar to 9.20 Norwegian kroner, let's just say as an example. That's just for a one-bedroom apartment. And Mrs. Flimsy and I are wanting a property, a full-on house, with space to be able to incorporate her business into, space for our friends and family that come from the U.S. to visit us, minimal. I mean, ideally, we're looking at a 4-bedroom house. And that comes with the price tag, depending on where you're looking at. So I shared the example of, the cost of maybe buying 1-bedroom apartment here in Stavanger area, where I've had friends in Oslo who, to live in the city for 1-bedroom apartment cost them, I think it was around 400,000 US dollars. The price difference in buying property or a place to live in Oslo versus Stavanger is much, much greater difference. So if you're looking to buy, just a regular house, you're not asking for a lot of fancy stuff. You're not asking even for a lot of land or property on the premises, maybe just a small little garden yard. You're looking at around, it depends. It depends on the location. But let's just say as an example, 350 to 400,000 US dollars. Now, if you go, let's say 45 minutes away, or 40-minute drive away from Stavanger out into the Jæren farmland, or across the fjord over to Jorpeland or Tal, the price begins to drop. Or you go to Forsund, is another. It's a beautiful drive to go there from Stavanger or towards Algod. No, I think I said that town wrong. Then the price drops to 300,000, 250,000, and you're getting more property and probably a barn on your property too, especially if you're going out to the countryside. So we're home hunting, but we're not buying a house yet. It'd be sometime next year, maybe the summer, maybe the fall. It kind of depends on what happens between now and then. So then on top of that, going to home viewing, says buying a house happens so much faster process here than in Indiana, as an example. So you really have to know your stuff before you go to the home viewing and you place your bid and all that jazz. And then it's also just trying to find some time off to chill and relax. Now, thankfully, in making YouTube videos, for the most part for me, this is even now, I'm pretty relaxed. This is taking my mind off things. And I'm engaging with all of you. So it's more relaxing for me, but when I have days where I'm working 10, 11, 12 hours, and I know I need to get a video recorded if it's going to go out tomorrow morning before I go back into work next day, I'm exhausted, and that's just not going to happen. Trying to do a video yesterday. I was hoping to do one. I had to work morning, day, and also later on in the evening, and I was hoping maybe I get some time in the gap there, but now I was just exhausted, and I just crashed and tried to recuperate a bit before continuing on with the evening stuff. So some days my work is really full and long days, and then I've normally Fridays are my day off, but I had to work a little bit earlier today. Saturdays are days off, and I don't have to do too much work on Sundays. Or just varies, because instruction, there's a lot more freedom here in Norway in structuring how to get your work done in a timeline. You can kind of be the boss of your own schedule. So you don't, in comparison, this is something that's been fun learning in the Norwegian Social Studies course. Sorry, I'm going off course here. But in the US, when I've worked for different companies, different places, there's much more of a focus on a hierarchy in terms of your, I don't know what the correct business term is. I've had a long week, so I'm not going to be able to think of all the words. You know, where you have, it's your leadership structure, you know, so maybe, you know, you've got a CEO, you've got the VP, maybe you have someone like in creative management, you have managers, you have supervisors, you have floor managers, and then you have the workers on the assembly lines, you know, that type of stuff. In U.S. culture, you know, it's pretty emphasis on that hierarchy, you know, and then there's other countries in the world that I think that's even much more so. Where here in Norway, the work environment is very flat. It's not tall. So, you know, they don't really have so much emphasis on the positions. It's much more like, oh yeah, we're just, you know, you could be a leader, you could be one, you know, very high up in the company, and you're using more of a language of verbiage of, yeah, I'm part of the I'm part of the work team here, part of the management, the management team. You know, it's not this oversight on your work and your responsibilities that you need to get done each week. So for someone coming like for myself from the U.S. or maybe my friends who come from Singapore, and they come into this very flat work environment structure, they can struggle a bit because of not having someone who's just necessarily delegating tasks and say, hey, do this project this week, week after I need you to do this presentation on this, so on and so forth. Where here it's like, okay, this is your work contract, these are the things you're responsible for, varsågod. Here you go. You're welcome. And then you're figuring that out on what it looks like. And so with that, there's kind of a bit of a trust that you will do your responsibilities, get the things that need to be done without having to have an oversight from like my supervisor. Like he's really hands off. And I just regularly, I check in with him, he checks in with me, just make sure things are going okay and I'm getting a hang of things. So it's really, for myself, it's super relaxed. So that kind of gives you the ability to be, I don't know if I'm going to go this far in saying you're kind of like your own boss, but you have this a lot of freedom. And so for me, I quite enjoy that because I'm also the one who's responsible for dictating my schedule and ensuring things get done when they need to be done. And so typically in my work, if you're making progress and you're doing things you need to, like it's evident. And very rarely ever, I mean, I've never had anyone say, yo, Flimsy, you're not doing enough. You're really sucking and managing your own schedule. I've never had that. It's been just good stuff. So that is so I have the freedom, what I was getting at, I had the freedom in my work week to decide pretty much what my work weeks looks like, you know. If I want to knock off early, I can because, hey, I worked a 10-hour day yesterday and I know I don't need to put as many hours in tomorrow or as of today because of the 10-hour day I had yesterday. So yeah, so it's just really gives you the freedom to do what you want, whether you're in the office working, which I think is very much a good thing, but also if you need to have the ability to work outside the office so that you can be, maybe there's other tasks that you don't need people disrupting you on, so you can just work through and get done. So people aren't coming into the office asking a bunch of questions or stuff. And even like when Mrs. Flimsy and I begin to have little Flimsies running around, you know, if you're like, hey, you know, you could be, you know, I have some friends and some other companies here that have come from the US, and they're like, it's crazy when we're having like this big important work presentation meeting and like, let's say it's about 3 o'clock and then like 2 or 3 Norwegians get up and they're like, oh yeah, I need to go. My kids are getting out of barnehage or getting out of kindergarten. So I need to go pick them up. And the Americans are like, but we should be like working till like 6, right? Like you're leaving early. So it's just that the difference in the work environment and stuff here. Which if you're used to that very tall work hierarchy, work structure, and having someone regularly dictate and delegate tasks to you when you're supposed to do on a weekly or monthly basis, it is a very vast, large change coming into. But from my upbringing and stuff, there's been different things in my life that have favored me being able to be responsible and make sure I get done what needs to be done. in the work and who I'm working with or responsible over. So yeah, 25 minutes. So that's a life update from Flimsy. So I guess you get to hear a little bit more about us. But the goal of this video, of course it's a life update, but just kind of saying that there might be some days in the next few weeks where it's just like you just don't see a video from me in my normal video schedule, which is typically it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. That is my typical video schedule. And so, normally Friday, Saturday, I'm featuring a ship, but I've had no time to really place more of the newer ships I've gotten because we've been going back with the new Swedish destroyer line. I need more credits to buy Gdansk. I do have Hindenburg now, and now I've finally been grinding the other Japanese cruiser line. I had the light cruiser, Yodo, which is just a terrible ship line, but now I'm grinding for Zhao. Like, there's just so many different ships. I've been playing this game for a while, but it's just so many ships to grind, and I'm constantly wrestling with credits. So I normally don't grind so many ships at once, but I'm just doing that. Trying to get a lot of tier 10s to get the nerfed super containers for the 8th anniversary event here in World Warships next patch. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed today's video. It's just this life update of me rambling on. So I hope it at least maybe some things were interesting to you if you're not accustomed to more Norwegian life. So if you liked this video, thumbs up. If you didn't, give a thumbs down. Subscribe if you do want to see more. If you're subscribed already, thanks so much. I would appreciate it, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.